He hated Christmas so much until a black waitress knocked on his door with a cake that changed everything. Kang Tae-hyo stared at the Christmas card with the kind of cold fury most men reserve for their enemies. Red envelope, gold lettering, season's greetings from the Park family. He fed it into the paper shredder beside his desk and watched it turn to confetti, the mechanical whir the only sound in his silent penthouse. 23 cards this week, all destroyed, all from people who should have known better. He hated Christmas, not the casual dislike most people claimed while secretly enjoying the lights and music and false cheer. Real hatred, the kind that lived in your bones and turned your stomach when stores started playing carols in November, the kind that made you want to burn down every decorated tree in Los Angeles. His phone buzzed. Text from his lieutenant, Park Ji-hoon. Boss, the annual charity gala is December 23rd. Your presence is expected. Good for optics. Tae-hyun deleted it without responding. Every year the same pressure. Show up, smile, pretend to celebrate the season that had taken everything from him. Every year he refused. Outside his floor-to-ceiling windows, Los Angeles glittered with holiday lights. December 15th, and the city had transformed into a nightmare of red and green. Tae-hyun poured himself whiskey, an expensive, Japanese, smooth enough to drink at 10 a.m., and tried not to remember. But memory didn't care what you tried. December 24th, 11 years ago, his parents driving home from a Christmas Eve party, drunk driver running a red light, both dead before the ambulance arrived. Tae-hyun was 17, suddenly orphaned, thrust into leading the Kang family operations before he'd even graduated high school. Every Christmas since had been the same. Work through the holiday, ignore the festivities, pretend December 25th was just another day. His men knew not to mention it. His business partners learned quickly not to send cards or gifts. Tae-hyun had built a fortress of routine around his grief, and for 11 years it had held. Until her. Zara Williams. Had exactly $43 in her bank account, a rent payment due in 6 days, and a pathological need to fix things that weren't her problem, which is why she was currently standing outside the most expensive building in downtown LA, holding a homemade chocolate cake and questioning every life choice that had led to this moment. This is insane, she muttered to herself, her breath fogging in the cold December air. You don't even know this man. You've served him coffee exactly 12 times. That's not a relationship. That's barely an acquaintance. But she couldn't shake the memory of yesterday morning. Kang Tae-hyun sitting at his usual corner table at Sunrise Diner, staring at nothing with eyes so empty, it hurt to look at them. She'd brought him his usual Americano, black, no sugar, and noticed the way his hand trembled slightly when he took it, the exhaustion carved into his face, the barely concealed pain. Rough night, she'd asked, using the smile that usually got her decent tips. Rough decade, he'd replied, voice flat. Then after a pause, do you like Christmas, Miss Williams? The question had caught her off guard. He'd never asked her anything personal before. Yes, it's complicated. My family's not around anymore, so it's lonely. But I try to find joy in it anyway. Why? Because you're a better person than I am. He left a $200 tip on a $6 check and walked out, leaving Zara staring after him with a strange ache in her chest. Later, her coworker Carmen had pulled her aside. Girl, you know who that is, right? Kang Tae-hyun runs the Korean operations in Koreatown. Word is his parents died on Christmas Eve when he was a kid. He hasn't celebrated since. Donates millions to charity but won't attend any holiday events. People say he's like a ghost this time of year. And Zara, who'd lost her own parents in a house fire when she was 8, who understood grief that didn't fit into neat timelines, who'd spent 15 Christmases forcing herself to celebrate because the alternative was drowning. Zara had made a decision. She'd baked a cake. Her grandmother's recipe, the one that tasted like love and resilience and refusing to let tragedy win. She'd wrapped it carefully, written a note card that said simply, "You don't have to be alone today. Z." And now she was here, about to do the most foolish thing she'd done in her 26 years. The doorman looked at her like she'd grown a second head. "Ma'am, you can't just walk in. This is a private residence." "I have a delivery for Kang Tae-hyun, penthouse." "Mr. Kang doesn't accept deliveries without prior authorization." Zara pulled out her phone, showing him a photo she'd sneakily taken weeks ago. Tae-hyun at the diner, mid-laugh at something Jihoon had said, the only time she'd ever seen him truly smile. I'm a friend. He's expecting me. The lie was so obvious even she didn't believe it. But something in her expression, desperation maybe, or determination, made the doorman hesitate. Let me call up. No, Zara said too quickly. It's a surprise. Please, it's Christmas. The doorman's expression softened slightly. 5 minutes. If he wants you gone, you leave immediately. Understood? Understood. The elevator ride to the top floor felt like ascending to execution. Zara's heart hammered against her ribs. What are you doing? He's going to think you're a stalker. He's going to call security. He's going to... The elevator doors opened directly into a penthouse foyer. Minimalist. Expensive. Cold as a mausoleum. Not a single Christmas decoration in sight. No lights, no tree, no hint that December 25th was 10 days away. Zara walked to the main door and knocked before she could lose her nerve. 1, 2, 3 sharp raps that echoed in the empty space. Silence. Then footsteps. Slow, deliberate. The door opened, and Tae-hyun stood there in dark slacks and a white dress shirt, sleeves rolled to his elbows, looking like he'd been working for hours. His expression cycled through surprise, confusion, and something that might have been anger. Miss Williams, his voice was carefully neutral. How did you get up here? I lied to your doorman. Zara held up the cake like a shield. I brought you this. It's chocolate. My grandmother's recipe. She always said chocolate could fix anything, which is obviously not true, but it doesn't hurt to try. Tae-hyun stared at her like she'd started speaking in tongues. You came to my home, uninvited, with a cake. Yes. Why? Because yesterday you looked like you were drowning, and I know what that feels like. The words tumbled out before Zara could stop them. Because Carmen told me about your parents, and I lost mine too when I was 8. And I know how Christmas becomes this minefield of memories and pain. Because you've been coming to the diner for 6 months, and you always sit alone, and you leave huge tips like you're trying to buy your way out of human connection. And because... She stopped, suddenly aware she was rambling. Because everyone deserves to have someone knock on their door with a cake, especially at Christmas. The silence that followed was crushing. Tae-hyun's expression hadn't changed, but something flickered in his dark eyes. Surprise? Pain? It was gone too quickly to identify. I appreciate the gesture, he said finally, tone still neutral. But I don't celebrate Christmas. I don't want visitors. And I certainly don't need pity from a waitress who's decided I'm her charity project. The words were designed to hurt, and they did. But Zara had grown up in South Central LA, had survived foster care and homelessness, and every kind of rejection society could throw at a black girl with no family and no money. She'd learned to see past people's armor to the fear underneath. This isn't pity, she said quietly. This is recognition, one survivor to another. You can send me away if you want. But Mr. Kang, I've been where you are. I've spent Christmas mornings crying in the shower so no one could hear. I've worked double shifts just to avoid being alone. I pretended the holiday didn't exist because acknowledging it meant acknowledging the empty space where my parents should be. She set the cake down on the small table beside the door. I'm not trying to fix you or save you or make you celebrate. I just wanted you to know that you don't have to be alone today or tomorrow. Or on Christmas Eve when the anniversary hits, and the grief gets so heavy you can't breathe. Her voice cracked slightly. You don't have to carry it by yourself. Zara turned to leave, embarrassment flooding through her. This was a mistake, a stupid, impulsive. Wait. She stopped, not turning around. How did your parents die? Tae-hyun's voice was softer now, curious rather than cold. House fire. December 18th. I was at a friend's sleepover. Zara's throat tightened. I came home to ashes and police tape and child services. Spent Christmas that year in a group home with 15 other kids, all of us pretending to be okay. And now you work at a diner, bringing cakes to strangers. I work 3 jobs, actually. Diner in the morning, retail in the afternoon, bar on weekends. And I bring cakes to people who look like they need them. So yes, I'm a walking cliché of resilience and probably need therapy. She finally turned to face him. But I'm here. I'm alive. And I decided a long time ago that grief doesn't get to win. Tae-hyun studied her with an intensity that made her skin prickle. Then slowly he stepped back from the doorway. Come in. It would be rude to let you leave after bringing food. Zara's eyes widened. Really? For 5 minutes. Then you leave, and we never speak of this again. It wasn't exactly a warm welcome, but it was something. Zara picked up the cake and followed him inside. The penthouse was beautiful and soulless. Expensive furniture arranged with mathematical precision. Art on the walls that probably cost 6 figures. Not a single personal photograph or memento. It looked like a luxury hotel suite, not a home. You live here alone? Zara asked, following him to a kitchen that was all marble and stainless steel. Yes. It's very... She searched for a diplomatic word. Clean. You mean sterile? Tae-hyun pulled out plates, his movements economical. I'm aware. I don't spend much time here. Where do you spend time? Working. And when you're not working? I'm always working. He cut into the cake with surgical precision. Running an organization like mine requires constant attention. There's no off switch. Zara watched him serve 2 perfect slices, noting the way his hands moved. Controlled, careful, like he was always aware of potential threats. Carmen says you run the Korean Mafia in L.A. Tae-hyun's hand paused mid-motion. Does she? Is it true? Would it matter if it was? He met her eyes. Would you have come here if you knew for certain I was a criminal? Zara considered this. Probably. I've done stupider things. And honestly, after everything I've survived, I'm not scared easily. You should be. There was no threat in his voice, just statement of fact. I'm not a good man, Miss Williams. I do things that would horrify you, hurt people, destroy lives. The fact that I do it with strategy and expensive suits doesn't make it noble. I didn't come here because I think you're noble. I came because I think you're in pain. Zara took the plate he offered. Those aren't mutually exclusive. They sat at the kitchen island, an absurd tableau, criminal boss and struggling waitress eating chocolate cake in uncomfortable silence. Zara took a bite and watched Tae-hyun do the same. Saw his expression shift slightly as the flavors registered. It's good, he admitted. Your grandmother taught you this. She raised me after my parents died, made this cake every Christmas until I was 18 and aged out of her care. Zara's smile was bittersweet. She died 3 years ago. Heart attack. So now I make it. And I try to remember how she'd tell stories while mixing the batter. How the whole house would smell like chocolate and love. And this helps. Making the cake, reliving memories. Sometimes. Other times it just hurts differently. She met his eyes. But I'd rather hurt while remembering them than pretend they never existed. That's what Christmas became for me. A choice between amnesia and agony. I choose agony. At least it means they mattered. Tae-hyun set down his fork. My parents were killed by a drunk driver. Christmas Eve, 2013. They were coming home from a party. The last thing my father said to me was, "Don't wait up. We'll see you Christmas morning." They never made it. How old were you? 17, old enough to inherit the family business. Young enough to have no idea what I was doing. His jaw clenched. I spent that Christmas morning identifying bodies and making arrangements. Spent Christmas afternoon meeting with my father's lieutenants. Learning I was now responsible for 200 families who depended on our organization. There was no time to grieve, no space to fall apart. So you just stopped celebrating? I stopped pretending December 25th was anything but the anniversary of my life ending. Every year, people send cards and gifts and invitations to holiday parties. Every year, I refuse, because participating in the charade feels like betraying them, like admitting their deaths were just a bump in the road instead of a cataclysm. Zara's throat tightened. That's not betrayal, that's survival. Is it? Or is it just cowardice? Refusing to engage because engagement means feeling, and feeling means remembering, and remembering means... He stopped abruptly, expression closing off. This conversation is over. Thank you for the cake. You should go. Mr. Kang, Tae-hyun, if you're going to invade my home and excavate my trauma, at least use my given name. Tae-hyun, Zara said softly. I'm not trying to make you celebrate. I'm trying to make you realize you don't have to punish yourself every December. Your parents wouldn't want that. You don't know what they'd want. His voice was sharp now, edges cutting. You don't know anything about them or me or what I've become. You're a waitress who decided I'm a charity case because I look sad in a diner. That doesn't give you insight into my life. You're right, I don't know you. But I know grief. Zara stood, gathering her things. And I know that it becomes easier when you stop carrying it alone. So here's what's going to happen. I'm going to leave my phone number on this counter. You're going to throw it away and forget I existed. And on Christmas Eve, when you're sitting here alone, drowning in memories, you're going to wish you'd kept it. She wrote her number on a napkin, placed it beside the remaining cake, and walked toward the door. Taehyun didn't follow, didn't argue, just sat at his kitchen island, surrounded by luxury and loneliness, watching her leave. At the door, Zara paused. My grandmother used to say that the people we lose don't want us to stop living. They want us to live harder, love fiercer, celebrate louder, because they can't anymore. Food for thought. Then she was gone, and Taehyun was alone again, with the silence and the cake and a napkin with 10 digits that felt like a grenade. He threw the number away. Of course he did. Fed it into the shredder with the Christmas cards and tried to forget the way Zara Williams had looked at him. Not with pity, but with recognition. Like she'd seen past his armor to the 17-year-old boy still bleeding beneath. But he couldn't forget. Over the next 3 days, Taehyun found himself thinking about her at odd moments. During a tense negotiation with a rival organization, while reviewing financial reports, in the middle of the night when insomnia kept him pacing his empty penthouse. He went to the diner on the 4th day, telling himself it was just routine. His usual table was occupied, some tourist family with children who kept spilling juice, so he sat at the counter instead. Zara appeared with coffee pot in hand, and if she was surprised to see him, she didn't show it. Americano, black, no sugar, she said, pouring without asking. You remember? I remember all my regulars' orders. It's called good service. But there was a slight smile playing at her lips. They didn't mention the cake or the conversation or the number he destroyed. Zara just refilled his coffee and moved on to other customers, treating him like any other patron. It should have been a relief. Instead, it felt like loss. The next morning, he came back, and the morning after that. By December 20th, Taehyun had abandoned all pretense. He was coming to the diner specifically to see Zara, to watch her banter with regulars, to see her handle difficult customers with grace, to catch the moments when her smile became real instead of professional. You're not very subtle, Jihoon observed on December 21st after Taehyun had ordered a 3rd refill of coffee he wasn't drinking. The waitress. You're interested. I'm not interested, Taehyun struggled for the word. Curious. Uh-huh. And I'm a ballet dancer. Jihoon leaned back, studying his boss with knowing eyes. She's the one who came to your place with the cake, isn't she? Carmen mentioned it. Said Zara was acting weird, baking at 2 a.m., asking questions about you. She's presumptuous, boundary crossing, doesn't understand her place. She's kind. That's what's bothering you. Someone showed you kindness without wanting anything in return, and you don't know how to process it. Taehyun wanted to argue but couldn't, because Jihoon was right. Zara had appeared in his life like a comet, unexpected, brilliant, gone too quickly, and left him feeling like he'd been sleeping for 11 years and only just woken up. That afternoon, Zara's phone rang as she restocked napkin dispensers. Unknown number. She almost ignored it, then thought better. Hello. Miss Williams, it's Kang Taehyun. A pause. I was wondering if you'd like to have dinner with me tonight. Zara nearly dropped the napkins. Dinner? Yes, as a thank you for the cake, nothing more. You threw away my number. I had someone retrieve it from the shredder. It took 3 hours and considerable effort. Despite herself, Zara laughed. You had someone piece together my phone number from shredded paper? That's either incredibly dedicated or mildly psychotic. Can it be both? There was something in his voice, almost playful. Dinner, yes or no? I have a reservation at 7 p.m. Every rational part of Zara screamed no. He was a criminal, a stranger, clearly damaged. Getting involved would be complicated at best, dangerous at worst. But she heard herself say, yes, but not somewhere fancy. If I'm having dinner with the Korean Mafia boss, I want street tacos and terrible beer. Silence then. Street tacos. That's the deal. Take it or leave it. I'll pick you up at 6:30. And Miss Williams, wear something comfortable. We're going to Boyle Heights. Taehyun arrived in a car that cost more than Zara's yearly salary, wearing jeans and a leather jacket that made him look dangerous and effortlessly attractive. She'd chosen simple jeans and a sweater and felt underdressed until she saw his approving nod. You clean up nice, she said, climbing into the passenger seat. I was thinking the same about you. He pulled into traffic with smooth confidence. Though I should warn you, the taco stand I'm taking you to is in rival territory. There may be tension. Zara's eyes widened. Are you serious? Yes, but don't worry, I called ahead. Arranged a temporary truce for the evening. You arranged a gang truce. For tacos. The tacos are exceptional. Worth the diplomatic effort. Despite her nervousness, Zara found herself laughing. There was something absurd and charming about a crime boss negotiating peace treaties for street food. The taco stand was exactly as advertised. A food truck in a parking lot, plastic tables scattered around, locals lined up for orders. The moment they arrived, Zara felt eyes turn toward them. Tension rippled through the crowd like wind through grass. Kang! Someone called out. A Latino man in his 40s, tattoos visible on his neck, approached with measured steps. You got some balls coming here. Carlos. Taehyun's posture shifted subtly, more alert, ready for violence. I called Miguel. He agreed to one evening, no trouble. Yeah, well, Miguel's not here right now. Carlos's eyes flicked to Zara. Who's the girl? None of your concern. We're here for food, nothing else. The standoff lasted long enough for Zara's heart to hammer against her ribs. Then Carlos laughed, tension breaking. Relax, man. I'm fucking with you. Miguel told us you were bringing a date. Said to behave ourselves. He extended a hand to Zara. Carlos Reyes. Sorry for the drama. Occupational hazard. Zara shook his hand, still processing. Zara Williams. And this is a date? Both men looked at her. Taehyun's expression was carefully neutral. Is that a problem? No. I just didn't realize. You said dinner as a thank you. I lied. It's a date. Unless you want it to be something else. There was vulnerability beneath the words, carefully hidden but present. No, Zara said slowly. A date is good. Great, actually. Just would have appreciated the heads up. Carlos grinned. She's got fire. I like her. Go order. First round's on me. Consider it an apology for the intimidation. They ordered an absurd amount of food. Carne asada, al pastor, lengua, carnitas, every variation the truck offered, and settled at a plastic table under string lights. The December night was cold, but the food was hot and perfect, and slowly Zara felt the tension leave her shoulders. You do this often? She asked between bites. Cross into rival territory for food? Never. This is a first. Taehyun's slight smile appeared. But you said street tacos. These are the best in LA, so I made arrangements. You started a diplomatic incident for our first date. Would you prefer I took you somewhere boring and safe? Honestly, no. This is... Zara gestured at the parking lot, the food truck, the mix of locals and gang members cautiously coexisting. This is perfect. Real. Real? Taehyun tested the word. I don't do real often. My life is performance, strategy, maintaining image and control. But with you, I don't want to perform. I want to be myself. Whoever that is under everything else. And who is that? I don't know. I was 17 when I became the person everyone needed me to be. I'm 28 now. I've been playing a role for so long, I'm not sure there's anything underneath. Zara reached across the table, covering his hand with hers. There is. I've seen glimpses. The way you tipped me even when service was slow. How you learned Spanish to communicate with the Latino workers in Koreatown. The donation programs you run. That's not performance. That's character. Or guilt. Trying to buy redemption for the things I've done. Maybe, but guilt implies conscience. You care about the damage you cause. That matters. They talked for hours as the parking lot emptied and the string lights glowed against darkness. Taehyun told her about taking over the family business at 17, about the first time he'd ordered violence and vomited afterward, about slowly learning to compartmentalize, to make hard choices, to become the leader his organization needed. Zara told him about foster care, about the group homes and temporary families who'd range from indifferent to cruel, about her grandmother's unexpected guardianship, the first time she'd felt safe in years, about working 3 jobs, not just for money, but to avoid sitting still long enough to feel the loneliness. We're both running, Taehyun observed, from different things, but toward the same destination. Nowhere, just away. Then maybe we should stop running, Zara said, at least long enough to catch our breath. Is that what this is? Catching our breath? I think it's the beginning of something. I don't know what yet, but Taehyun, I haven't felt this seen, this understood, since my grandmother died. And I don't want to lose that because we're both too scared to try. He drove her home as midnight approached, parking outside her modest apartment building in Inglewood. Neither moved to leave, the silence comfortable rather than awkward. I'm going to Seoul, Taehyun said suddenly. Day after tomorrow. Business I can't avoid. I'll be gone through Christmas. Disappointment flooded Zara, sharp and surprising. Oh, come with me. Her head snapped toward him. What? Come to Seoul, meet my extended family, see where I come from. His hand found hers in the darkness. I know it's fast. I know it's crazy. But Zara, I haven't wanted anything besides survival in 11 years. And I want this. I want you. I want to see if this feeling is real or just two damaged people finding temporary comfort. I can't afford a plane ticket to Seoul. I can't afford rent this month. I'll cover everything. Consider it part of the date. A very extravagant, slightly insane date. Zara should have said no. Should have been practical. Instead, I need to work. I can't just disappear for a week. Quit. I'll pay you double what you make at all 3 jobs. Come work for me when we get back. Doing what? I don't know yet. Something better than serving coffee to ungrateful customers. His thumb traced circles on her wrist. Please, let me show you something beautiful. Let me give you a Christmas that isn't about grief and survival. Just once. Just to see what's possible. Every rational thought screamed no. Every survival instinct warned danger. But Zara heard herself whisper, Okay. Yes. I'll come to Seoul. Taehyun's smile was like sunrise, rare and transformative. He leaned across the center console, giving her time to pull away, then kissed her softly, carefully, like she was precious. Pack warm, he said when they broke apart. Seoul in December is brutal. So is dating a crime boss, apparently. You have no idea. Seoul was everything and nothing like Zara expected. Modern skyscrapers alongside traditional architecture. Neon lights and temple bells. The chaos of Myeongdong shopping district and the serenity of Bukchon Hanak village. And everywhere, Christmas decorations. Elaborate light displays, decorated trees, couples celebrating. Taehyun had arranged a hotel suite overlooking the Han River, all luxury and modern design. Separate bedrooms, he'd specified, though the tension between them suggested those boundaries wouldn't last long. We have dinner with my uncle tonight, he explained as they settled in. Lee Sang-min. He took over the Seoul operations when my father moved to L.A. He'll want to meet you, assess if you're a liability. Comforting. He'll love you, everyone does. Taehyun's expression softened. You have this way of making people feel seen. It's a gift. Dinner was at a private restaurant in Gangnam, the kind of place that didn't have prices on menus, because if you needed to ask, you couldn't afford it. Uncle Sang-min was in his 60s, silver hair and sharp eyes that cataloged everything. So, he said in accented English, studying Zara over expensive whiskey. Nephew brings a black American woman to Seoul during Christmas. This is new behavior. Interesting. Uncle, Taehyun began, but Sang-min waved him off. No, let me speak. Taehyun has been ghost for 11 years. No joy, no life, just work. Then suddenly he calls, says he's bringing someone to meet family. So I think, who is this woman who makes the frozen boy feel again? Zara met Sang-min's gaze steadily. I'm nobody special, just a waitress who made him a cake. No such thing as just a waitress. My mother was waitress. Strongest woman I ever knew. Sang-min's expression warmed slightly. You know about his parents? The Christmas? Yes, sir. And still you push him to engage with holiday. Why? Why not let sleeping dogs lie? Because sleeping dogs don't heal. They just stay wounded. Zara chose her words carefully. My parents died at Christmas too. I know how easy it is to let grief become identity. To stop living because living means moving forward without them. But Mr. Lee, they wouldn't want that. Would your brother want Taehyun to spend his life frozen at 17? Sang-min was quiet for a long moment. Then he raised his glass. To sleeping dogs and the people brave enough to wake them. And to you, Miss Williams. You have wise heart. My nephew is lucky man. The evening shifted after that. Sang-min told stories about Taehyun's father, his humor, his strategic mind, his fierce love for his family, about how proud he'd been of his son, how he'd talked constantly about Taehyun going to university, maybe becoming legitimate businessman instead of following the family path. He wanted better for you, Sangmin said to Taehyun, not because he was ashamed of what we do, but because he knew the cost, the violence, the paranoia, the constant wait. He dreamed you could escape. But I couldn't, Taehyun said quietly. When he died, I had to step up. There was no one else. There was me. I could have taken both operations, let you finish school. Sangmin's expression was regretful. But you were so determined, so ready to honor him by carrying his burden. And I let you. That is my failure. It's not failure to let someone choose their path. Even when that path leads to darkness, Zara interrupted before the mood could turn completely maudlin. Maybe it's not about the path. Maybe it's about who you walk it with. Darkness is less frightening when you're not alone. Both men looked at her. Sangmin smiled. Taehyun, you keep this one. She makes poetry from pain. That is rare gift. The next 3 days were a revelation. Taehyun showed Zara Soul through his eyes. The neighborhoods he'd grown up visiting. The street food his mother had loved. The temple where his family held memorial services. They visited his parents' grave, a modest stone in a hillside cemetery overlooking the city. Zara watched as Taehyun knelt before the grave, speaking in quiet Korean. She didn't understand the words, but the grief in his voice was universal. When he finished, she knelt beside him, placing the flowers they'd brought. I told them about you, Taehyun said as they walked back to the car. Said I met someone who understands, who doesn't let me hide. What do you think they'd say? My mother would love you immediately. She always wanted me to find someone strong, independent, someone who wouldn't let me become cold. He smiled slightly. My father would be suspicious at first. He'd investigate your background, make sure you weren't a liability. Then he'd realize you're genuine, and he'd welcome you with his whole heart. You talk about them like they're still here. They are, not literally, but in the choices I make, the values I try to uphold, I carry them forward. His hand found hers. That's what you were trying to tell me, wasn't it? That honoring the dead doesn't mean dying with them. It means living so fully that their legacy continues through us. Something like that. That night, they stood on the hotel balcony overlooking Seoul's glittering skyline. Christmas Eve in Korea felt different. Couples strolling in matching outfits, elaborate light displays, a commercial holiday rather than religious. But beneath it all, Zara felt something shifting in Taehyun. It's been 11 years, he said quietly. 11 Christmas Eves of hating this day, dreading midnight, counting down to the anniversary. And now? Now I'm standing here with you, and I'm not counting anything. I'm just present, in this moment, with someone who sees me and doesn't look away. He turned to face her fully. Zara, I don't know what we're doing. I don't know if this is sustainable or smart or anything besides two broken people finding temporary shelter. But I know I don't want it to end. Zara pulled him close, feeling his heart beat against her chest. Then don't let it end. We'll figure out the logistics and the complications and all the practical stuff. But right now, tonight, just be here with me. They kissed as midnight approached, as Christmas Eve became Christmas Day. And for the first time in 11 years, Taehyun wasn't alone with his grief. He was alive, present, feeling something besides pain. When they broke apart, Zara whispered, Merry Christmas, Taehyun. And he, the man who'd hated this holiday for over a decade, who'd shredded cards and refused celebrations and built fortresses around his trauma, smiled and said, Merry Christmas, Zara. They returned to LA on December 27th, and reality hit like cold water. Zara's apartment felt tiny and shabby after the Seoul Hotel. Her 3 jobs suddenly seemed impossible, and the attention they attracted walking through LAX together, the Korean crime boss and his black girlfriend, made her realize how complicated their relationship would be. Move in with me, Taehyun said as he drove her home. What? Move into the penthouse. Quit the jobs. Work for me officially. I'm serious about that. Let me make your life easier. Taehyun, that's moving way too fast. We've known each other less than 2 weeks. 14 days, and I've learned more about you, about myself, about what's possible than in the previous 11 years. Time is arbitrary. Connection is what matters. Connection doesn't pay rent. No, but I do. Generously. At her expression, he softened. I'm not trying to buy you or control you. I'm trying to remove obstacles so we can see if this is real. If it's not, if you decide I'm too damaged or dangerous or different, you leave with enough money to start fresh somewhere else. But Zara, give us a real chance, not squeeze between your work shifts and my business obligations. A real chance. She should have said no, should have maintained independence. Instead, 1 month, trial period, I keep my apartment as backup, and I work for you legitimately, real job, real responsibilities, not kept woman bullshit. Deal. The first week was an adjustment. Zara moved into the guest bedroom, maintaining boundaries, and started working for Taehyun's community outreach programs. Turned out there was substantial need for someone to coordinate charity efforts, manage relationships with local organizations, and serve as a bridge between the Korean community and other LA neighborhoods. She was good at it. Her background gave her credibility. She'd lived the struggle these programs addressed. Her personality made people trust her. And her relationship with Taehyun, though complicated, gave her access to resources most community organizers could only dream about. But it wasn't all smooth. Taehyun's world was dangerous in ways Zara hadn't fully grasped. There were rivals who saw her as leverage, associates who resented her influence, and the constant awareness that violence lurked at the edges of their carefully constructed normalcy. The breaking point came on January 15th. Zara was leaving a community center in Koreatown when a black SUV pulled up. 3 men got out, moving with predatory intent. Miss Williams, the leader said in accented English, Mr. Park would like to speak with you. Park Jin-seok, leader of a rival organization that had been pushing into Kang territory for months. Zara's security detail materialized immediately. Taehyun had insisted on protection, though she'd chafed at the restriction. And suddenly there were guns drawn in a public parking lot. Stand down, Zara said to her guards, heart pounding. To Park's men, I'll come talk, but only if everyone holsters their weapons. I'm a civilian. This doesn't need to be violent. Tense negotiations. Calls made. Eventually, Taehyun arrived, moving through the standoff like a blade through water. The fury in his eyes was terrifying. You touch her, he said quietly to Park's lieutenant, and I will personally dismantle your entire organization. Every business, every asset, every family member. Do you understand? Boss just wants to talk. No harm intended. Then he can request a meeting through proper channels, not ambush my partner in a parking lot. The standoff ended with Park's men leaving and Zara shaking from adrenaline. Taehyun drove her home in silence, jaw clenched so tight she could see the muscle jumping. This is my fault, he said finally. I brought you into this world without fully considering the cost. You could have been killed today, because of me, because Park wants leverage. But I wasn't. Your people protected me. The system worked. This time, but Zara, there will be other times. Other rivals who see you as a weakness to exploit. I can't keep you safe and give you normal life. You have to choose. The ultimatum hung between them. Zara thought about her grandmother, about choosing to live fully despite loss, about Taehyun on Christmas Eve, finally allowing himself to feel again, about the terrifying, exhilarating reality of their relationship. I choose you, she said. Not safety, not normal. You. With all the complications and danger and impossible logistics. Because Taehyun, you're worth it. We're worth it. His control cracked. He pulled over, dragged her across the center console into his lap, and kissed her with desperate intensity. I love you, he said against her mouth. I know it's too soon. I know it's crazy, but I love you, and I'm terrified of losing you. Then don't. Fight for us the way you fight for your organization. Build protection around us. Make it work. How? By being honest about the risks, training me to protect myself, including me in decisions instead of sheltering me from reality. I'm not fragile, Taehyun. I'm a survivor. Treat me like one. The next 6 months were a masterclass in building love in impossible circumstances. Taehyun taught Zara self-defense, included her in strategy meetings, made her a real part of his world rather than something to protect. She pushed him to continue celebrating life. Not just Christmas, but every small moment worth acknowledging. They negotiated with Park, establishing boundaries and respect, expanded the community programs, creating genuine positive impact. And slowly, Taehyun's organization shifted, still powerful, still dangerous, but increasingly legitimate. Drug operations phased out. Protection rackets transformed into private security firms. Money laundering replaced with actual real estate investments. It wasn't clean or simple. There were setbacks and violence, and moments when Zara wondered if love was enough. But every time doubt crept in, she remembered Christmas Eve in Seoul. Tae-hyun smiling as midnight struck, the way he'd looked at her like she'd performed a miracle by simply being present. On December 15th, 1 year after she'd knocked on his door with a chocolate cake, Tae-hyun took Zara back to that Seoul hillside cemetery. They stood before his parents' grave in falling snow, and he spoke in Korean before translating. "Mom, Dad, I want you to meet Zara officially. She's the woman who taught me I could feel again, who showed me that honoring you doesn't mean dying with you, who made me realize that life is meant to be lived, not just survived. And I'm going to marry her, with your blessing or without it. But I hope you're proud. I hope you see that I'm finally becoming the man you wanted me to be." Zara's tears froze on her cheeks. "You're proposing? Here? Where better? They should be part of this." He dropped to one knee in the snow, pulling out a ring, simple platinum band with a single diamond. "Zara Williams, you broke into my life with terrible timing and impossible optimism. You saw past my armor to the broken boy underneath. You made me celebrate Christmas again. You made me want to be better than I am. Will you marry me? Will you build something beautiful from all our broken pieces?" "Yes. God, yes." She pulled him up, kissing him as snow fell around them. "You insane, wonderful, dangerous man." "Yes." They married on Christmas Eve, 1 year and 9 days after their first meeting. Small ceremony at the same Seoul temple where Tae-hyun's parents had wed. Sungmin officiated, tears streaming down his face as he pronounced them husband and wife. Zara wore a hanbok, traditional Korean dress, in deep purple. Tae-hyun wore a modern suit with Korean elements. The ceremony blended traditions, honoring both their heritages, and when they exchanged vows, they each spoke about grief and survival in choosing to live fully. "You saved me," Tae-hyun said, with a chocolate cake and stubborn insistence that I deserve joy. "Every day with you is proof that love is stronger than trauma, that the future doesn't have to be determined by the past. I promise to celebrate life with you, to never stop fighting for us, to build a world where our children grow up understanding that strength includes vulnerability." "You gave me purpose," Zara said, "beyond survival, beyond just getting through each day. You showed me that damaged people can build beautiful things if they're brave enough to try. I promise to walk into darkness with you and bring light, to never let you retreat into isolation, to love you with the same fierce determination you've shown me, for all our Christmases to come." The reception was at that same Boyle Heights taco stand where they'd had their first official date. Carlos and his crew provided security alongside Tae-hyun's people, a symbolic joining of territories and traditions. They ate street food and drank cheap beer and danced to music that mixed K-pop with Latin rhythms with American R&B. As midnight approached, Tae-hyun pulled Zara aside. "It's almost Christmas Day, the anniversary, and I'm not dreading it. What are you feeling?" "Grateful. For my parents, for the life they gave me, for the fact that their death, as terrible as it was, led me to this moment. To you. To understanding that tragedy doesn't have to be the end of the story. Just a painful middle chapter, with a happy ending still being written." He kissed her as fireworks exploded overhead, someone's illegal celebration lighting up the LA sky. "Merry Christmas, Mrs. Kang. Merry Christmas, husband." 5 years later, Zara stood in their home, not the penthouse, but an actual house in View Park with a yard and neighbors and evidence of real life. Christmas decorations covered every surface, not professionally done, but chaotic and personal. A tree covered in mismatched ornaments, stockings hung by the fireplace, lights strung with more enthusiasm than skill. Tae-hyun appeared with their 3-year-old daughter on his hip, both of them covered in flour. "We made cookies," he announced. "They're mostly edible." "Mostly?" Zara laughed, taking the tray of vaguely cookie-shaped objects. "These look like modern art." "Daddy said they're supposed to be snowflakes," their daughter said seriously. "But I think they look like monsters." "Monster snowflakes. Very festive." Zara kissed her daughter's forehead, then her husband's lips. "How did we get here? From you hating Christmas to us living in a gingerbread explosion? You knocked on my door with a cake and refused to let me hide." Tae-hyun set their daughter down to play, pulling Zara close. "You saw through my armor to the pain underneath? You showed me that grief and joy could coexist. That celebrating didn't mean forgetting. That life was meant to be lived, not just survived. And you let me in. Despite every reason to push me away, you let me see you. The broken parts, the dangerous parts, all of it. Best decision I ever made. He rested his forehead against hers. Though I still think you were slightly insane. Coming to a crime boss's penthouse with homemade cake. I prefer optimistically reckless. That too. Their daughter called for attention, wanting to hang her monster snowflake cookies on the tree. As they helped her, Zara thought about that first Christmas Eve, the chocolate cake that started everything, the broken man who'd let her see his pain, the leap of faith they'd both taken. Later that night, after their daughter was asleep and the house was quiet, Taehyun and Zara sat by the fire. He pulled out a small box, placing it in her hands. What's this? Open it. Inside was a napkin, carefully preserved behind glass. The same napkin where Zara had written her phone number 5 years ago. The one he'd shredded and then had someone piece back together. You kept it. Of course I kept it. This is the moment my life changed. The moment I chose to reach out instead of retreating, to answer when you knocked instead of hiding in darkness. He traced the faded numbers with one finger. I keep it to remember that the bravest thing we can do is say yes to connection. Even when we're terrified. Even when every logical reason says no. Zara's eyes filled with tears. I'm so glad I knocked on your door. I'm so glad I let you in. They sat together as Christmas lights twinkled and snow began to fall outside. Rare for LA, but possible on this night of all nights. Two people who'd found each other across grief and difference and impossible odds. Who'd built a life that honored their pain while refusing to be defined by it. And when midnight struck, transforming Christmas Eve into Christmas Day, Taehyun didn't flinch or retreat or dread the anniversary. He just held his wife closer and whispered, "Thank you for knocking, for staying, for showing me that love is worth the risk." "Always," Zara whispered back, "for all our Christmases, forever." In the morning, their daughter woke them early, demanding they open presents. As they sat surrounded by wrapping paper and chaos and joy, Zara caught Taehyun's eye. He was smiling, not the careful, controlled expression he'd worn for years, but a real smile, full of love and peace and the kind of happiness that comes from choosing life despite its pain. "What are you thinking about?" she asked. "That 11 years ago, I wanted Christmas to disappear, wanted to erase this day from existence. And now," he gestured at their living room, at their daughter squealing over a new toy, at the life they'd built. "Now I can't imagine missing this, any of it." "Grief doesn't disappear," Zara said softly. "It just makes room for other things. Joy doesn't replace pain. It lives alongside it." Wise words from a woman who showed up uninvited with cake. "The cake is the wisdom. I'm just the delivery system." Their daughter interrupted, demanding they help build her new toy. As they sat on the floor together, former crime boss, former waitress, and the small person who'd made them a family, Zara felt the rightness of it all, the messy, complicated, beautiful reality they'd created. That evening, they drove to Boyle Heights. Carlos and his family were having a Christmas dinner, massive, loud, full of kids and music and life. Taehyun and Zara had been invited years ago and never stopped coming. It had become tradition. "Look at you," Carlos said, pulling Taehyun into a hug. "Used to hate Christmas. Now you bring tamales and smile like a normal person. Zara's magic is strong." "The strongest," Taehyun agreed, pulling his wife close. They stayed late, eating too much, laughing too loud, their daughter playing with a dozen other children. As Zara watched Taehyun teach one of Carlos's sons a card game, she thought about how far they'd come, not just as individuals, but as partners who'd built something impossible. On the drive home, their daughter asleep in the back seat, Taehyun reached for Zara's hand. "I need to tell you something." "Sounds serious." "It is. I've decided to fully legitimize everything. No more gray areas, no more operations that require looking the other way. I'm going completely legal." Zara's breath caught. "That's huge. Are you sure?" "Completely. I want our daughter to be proud of what I do. Want to build something she can inherit without shame or danger. And Zara, I can do that now, because you gave me something worth building for. A future that matters more than the past. That's the best Christmas present you could have given me. There's more. I'm starting a foundation." mental health resources for people who've experienced grief and trauma, especially targeting communities that don't traditionally seek help, Korean immigrants, inner-city youth, people who've lost family to violence. Named after your parents? And your grandmother, the people who shaped us into people capable of this, of building light from darkness. Tears streamed down Zara's face. They'd be so proud, all of them. I hope so, because everything good in my life came from the worst day. From tragedy that led to isolation, that led to you knocking on my door with a cake and refusing to let me hide. Best impulse decision I ever made. Best thing that ever happened to me. 10 years after that first Christmas Eve, Zara stood in the newly opened Kang Williams Center for Grief and Healing. State-of-the-art facility in downtown LA, offering free counseling, support groups, and resources. The grand opening was December 15th, the anniversary of when she'd first knocked on Taehyun's door. Full circle, Taehyun said, standing beside her as reporters and community members toured the space. From me drowning in grief to building something that helps others survive theirs. You were never drowning, just treading water, waiting for someone to throw you a rope. You threw me a cake, close enough. Their daughter, now 8, ran up with their 5-year-old son in tow. Mom, Dad, they have a room named after great-grandma. It has her picture and everything. We know, baby. We designed it that way. Zara's grandmother smiled from the photograph, the same woman who taught her that chocolate could heal wounds and love was worth fighting for. Beside it was a photo of Taehyun's parents, young and happy, frozen before tragedy. Do you think they know, Taehyun asked quietly, that their deaths, as terrible as they were, led to this? To us? To our family? To this center that will help thousands? I think they know, and I think they're proud, not because tragedy had meaning, it didn't, but because we refused to let it be the end of the story. That night, they returned to the house in View Park. Christmas decorations were already up. November was apparently never too early to start celebrating, according to their children. As they tucked the kids into bed, their son asked, Dad, is it true you used to hate Christmas? Taehyun sat on the edge of the bed, considering how to answer. Yes. When I was 17, something very sad happened on Christmas Eve, and for a long time, I let that sadness take over. I forgot that Christmas could be happy. What changed? Your mom knocked on my door with a cake, and she reminded me that sad things happen, but we don't have to stay sad forever. We can remember the people we lost and still celebrate life. Both things can be true. That's why we have the memory wall, their daughter chimed in. The memory wall, a space in their home with photos of deceased loved ones, updated each Christmas Eve. So we remember them while we celebrate. Exactly. We honor the past while building the future. After the children were asleep, Taehyun and Zara sat on their back porch, watching the city lights. You know what's wild? Zara said. If Devin hadn't been a coward, if my life had gone according to plan, I'd have missed all this. You, the kids, the center, everything. I think about that sometimes. How one rejected Christmas date led to everything else. How you being alone led to us being together. Chaos theory, or fate, or just dumb luck. Whatever it was, I'm grateful. He pulled her close. For that first knock on my door, for every moment since, for you refusing to let me hide in darkness. I didn't let you hide because I recognized myself in you. Another person using survival as an excuse not to live. And I thought, if we're both drowning, maybe we can save each other. Did we? Yeah, I think we did. On December 24th, 15 years after his parents' death, Taehyun woke without the familiar dread. No heavy weight on his chest, no urge to hide until the anniversary passed. Just peace. And beside him, Zara, the woman who'd knocked on his door with a cake and changed everything. They spent the morning at the cemetery, as they did every year now. But instead of just grief, they brought stories. Told Taehyun's parents about their grandchildren's accomplishments, about the center that bore their name, about the thousands of lives touched by resources built in their memory. I used to think honoring you meant staying frozen at 17, Taehyun said to the headstone. Meant never moving past that night. But Zara taught me that real honor is living fully, building something beautiful from the broken pieces, creating light from darkness. Their children placed flowers, a tradition they'd started years ago. Great-grandma and great-grandpa, their daughter said seriously. We miss you even though we never met you. But Dad says you're part of us, in our names and our values and the way we help people. As they walked back to the car, their son asked, Will you tell us the cake story again? It had become family legend. How Mom had shown up uninvited. How Dad had almost sent her away. How a chocolate cake and stubborn optimism had started everything. Your mom was either very brave or very foolish, Taehyun said, winking at Zara. Possibly both. Definitely both, Zara agreed. But it worked out. It worked out perfectly. That evening, they hosted Christmas Eve dinner. Massive affair. Sangmin flew in from Seoul. Carlos and his extended family came from Boyle Heights. Staff from the center, neighbors, friends. Their house overflowed with people and languages and traditions mixing into something beautifully chaotic. At midnight, Taehyun asked for everyone's attention. 15 years ago tonight, my parents died, and I spent the next 14 Christmases hating this day, wishing I could erase it from existence. Then Zara knocked on my door with a cake, and everything changed. He pulled her close. She showed me that grief and joy aren't opposites. They're partners. That honoring loss doesn't mean refusing happiness. That the bravest thing we can do is say yes to love, even when we're terrified. So tonight I want to thank her for seeing past my armor, for refusing to let me hide, for building this beautiful, complicated life with me. The room erupted in applause. Zara kissed him as tears streamed down her face. Best knock I ever made, she whispered. Best door I ever answered. 20 years after that first chocolate cake, Zara stood in their kitchen making her grandmother's recipe. Her hands knew the movements by heart now. 3 cups flour, 2 cups sugar, the secret ingredient her grandmother never wrote down, but had whispered to Zara before she died. Love. The secret ingredient was always love. Taehyun appeared behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. They were both older now. She had gray threading through her hair. He had lines around his eyes from smiling. Their children were in college, building their own lives. The center had expanded to 5 locations across California. Making the cake? He asked. Every year. Tradition. You know, I've never actually thanked you properly. For that first cake. For knocking on my door. For refusing to give up on me. You've been thanking me for 20 years. With every Christmas we celebrate, every life we build, every moment we choose joy despite the pain. That's thanks enough. Still, I should say it. Thank you, Zara. For seeing through my darkness to the person I could become, for believing I deserved happiness even when I didn't believe it myself, for building this life with me. You saved me. We saved each other. She turned in his arms, hands covered in flour, heart full. I was drowning too, remember? Just better at hiding it. You gave me purpose and partnership and proof that love could survive impossible circumstances. So what does that make us? 2 broken people who fixed each other? No. 2 whole people who learned that cracks don't make you broken. They just show where the light gets in. The cake went into the oven. Tomorrow they'd share it with family and friends and strangers who'd become family. They'd tell the story again, how a waitress with $43 and a chocolate cake had knocked on a crime boss's door and changed both their lives. How grief had made room for joy. How choosing love despite fear had become their greatest act of courage. Merry Christmas, Taehyun, Zara said, as she had every year for 2 decades. Merry Christmas, Zara. Thank you for knocking. Thank you for answering. And in that moment, flower-dusted and older and still impossibly in love, they were exactly where they were always meant to be. 2 people who'd found each other across grief and difference and impossible odds. Who'd built a life that honored their pain while refusing to be defined by it. The Korean Mafia boss who'd hated Christmas. The black waitress who'd knocked on his door with a cake. Their story wasn't about tragedy transformed into triumph. It was simpler and more profound than that. It was about 2 people who decided that survival wasn't enough, that life demanded more, that love, despite its risks and complications and inevitable pain, was always worth choosing, always, forever, for all their Christmases to come.